In this short video, we're just going to have a look at how we can do a thing called a loop cut. And a loop cut is a way that we can take our objects and add more vertices and faces and edges to them to work with and modify our content within Blender. So I've just opened up Blender. I've got the default cube here. Now I'm not going to make any changes to it, but you can see if we look at the model, it has the 6 faces, top, bottom, sides, front and back. And when it comes time to edit it, when we're in our edit mode, we can select, as we learnt in previous lessons, the vertices, the edges, or the faces to work with. But if we're going to be creating buildings, we might need more than just these faces to work with, and that way we can use a loop cut to add more content to edit and manipulate within Blender. So loop cut can only be made in edit mode. So I'm in edit mode here. If you're in object mode, you just need to change modes. Remember, that's just tab on the keyboard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move down the screen, and you'll notice about halfway down there's a tool here called a loop cut. And essentially you can see with the mouse over the top of it, the loop cut will cut a mesh, and you can kind of position it within the object that you have. So I'm going to click on that, I'm going to come over to my object, and you can see at the moment it's putting a horizontal loop cut in just where I have the mouse, and if I move it, a vertical loop cut. Now if I click down once, it will create a single loop cut in the middle of the device. If I click down and hold though, I can position the loop cut where I want it to be, so I can choose to make it close to the edges rather than just in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make space for a door in this part of the object I have here. So I'm going to create some loop cuts. Oops, don't need that third one, so I'm just going to go Control Z to undo it. I needed a vertical one to work with, and if I just scroll around here, I'm going to use the space that I've cut here. So I've got these 3 edges now that I'm working with, and I'm going to use another tool called the extrude tool to make the impression of a door there. Now a couple of things about working with the loop tool: you can use it as I have, where you basically click and create a new loop freely, or you'll notice as I click down I do get the loop cut and slide options here where I can choose the number of cuts. So I've just clicked down and I can add more and more cuts. I mean, this is a fairly ridiculous number, putting 20 in. And I can play around with some other options there. So if you want to segment something into even pieces, you can use the properties which appear here and choose the number of cuts. So if I want it to be 4 or 5 cuts, I can just set it there. And I'm just going to undo that because I don't actually want any more loop cuts, so I'm just going to Control Z and go backwards. But yeah, essentially that's how you do a loop cut. I'll just go through that again. I'm going to go back to my object mode, and I'm just going to create a new object to demonstrate it again. I've just positioned my cursor where I want the new object to appear. So add a new mesh, add a cube, just move it up a little bit. To add a loop cut to it, go to edit mode, go down, make sure the loop cut tool is selected. You can do horizontal or vertical, it's just where you position your mouse on the object. So in this case I'll do some vertical ones. I'm going to click down once, and I'm going to go to my properties here, and I can increase the number of cuts and see how they're all really equal there. Do the same thing here with the vertical cuts, and that gives me a lot of options to work with when I use my next tool, which will be the extrude tool, where we can actually take advantage of the loop cuts which have been put into these objects.